Every second, the world changes, markets rise, leaders speak, stories unfold. To keep up, you don't just need news, you need clarity, you need speed, you need perspective.
That's why Aneka TV brings you the global port. Accurate, reliable, right when it matters most. Aneka TV. Move with the world.
It gladdens our heart to have you join Youth Focus once again on Aneka TV. It is a program that has brought the interest of the young people to a limelight, making them strong partakers in all of the things that will determine their future, especially on the electioneering processes. To achieve this, we make opinions, we give commendations, motivations, criticisms, and as a matter of fact, give kudos to you for being a regular participant on the program. Thank you so much. You can find us on our socials, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, all at Aneka TV. My name is Chukwamaka Obasi, and today our focus is on the power of PVC. Having done justice to the part 1 of it, today we are on the part 2 of this particular topic. Permit me to introduce to you another set of administrators I have on the studio today. By my right is Mr. Samson Okwo. He is an admin, Lead Network Africa. Samson, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I have Wilfred Okeke, who is a youth administrator. You're welcome on the show.
Thank you so much. My pleasure being here.
All right, from the first episode, we were able to unravel the importance of the PVC, especially during elections. And again, the role of the young people during election period. And as a matter of fact, what you are, the reasons behind your becoming a vote, you are becoming one that should vote or be voted for as an active voter. Then the essence of mobilizing peers to boost the voter turnout, and again to demand accountability in the democratic process. We didn't stop there. We went through the act as an election observers, that's the young people, and again to run for political offices, yes, and engage in civic and voter education. At the end of the day, we concluded that as youth, that the young people must have the PVC to be able to change unwanted democratic processes. That was where we ended it. What do you have to say about this?
Well, I think the first edition was really, just from what you've said, PVC is really key. You know, it's really the passport to determine who would govern you or who will not. So I think it's really important that we understand the power that the PVC has, you know, in actually changing democratic systems and structures, putting in who you want to be there and bringing out who you don't want to be there. Yeah. All right,
so let's have your view on the importance of PVC.
Yeah, right now, you can't say that you are in Nigeria and the things happening, politics, governance is affecting you. As a youth, the amount of money you pay in your school, whether you are in secondary school, whether you are in tertiary institution, is affected by the policies of the governors, the commissioners, the ministers, and the president, right? Almost everything you do as a youth is affected by those in power. So you cannot stay back and say, I'm not interested. Of course, we see strikes going on. Lecturers do not just go on strike because they want to go on strike. It's because of those in power. And the people in power got there because a certain group of persons voted them, right? So oftentimes we see the youth just sit back and complain. At most we'll come out and protest. But the best form of protest is voting, deciding who leads you and what gives you the power. You can't just come out and vote. There's a process to everything. It is your PVC that gives you that power to decide who leads you.
Okay, thank you so much. Wilfred, I want you to take it off from the angle of the consequences of not having the PVC as a young person.
Well, there are a lot. It's enormous, right? And I wouldn't just want to stop the conversation on just having PVC, you know, because I know a lot of people get the PVC because they want to have some sort of identification. Because when you look carefully at the statistics, for instance, in 2023, our voter register, the national voter register, rose to about 93 million persons registered to vote. And when you look at the when you want to disaggregate that statistics, to look at the youth population within that number, you find out that about close to 40% of that register, was young people between the ages of 18 to 34. Then from people from between the age of 35 to around 49 was around another 38%. That's to tell you how mighty, how the magnitude of the power that young people have in terms of numbers. And politics is a game of numbers. Yes, right. And when you look at the actual voting, we just had about 20 million persons who actually voted. So that's roughly about averagely 20% of the entire voter register. And when you want to juxtapose that, or you want to place that side by side with the national population, Nigeria has over 200 million persons, living in it. We know it's more than, but averagely.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about 20 million persons actually voting, so that means that it's just about 10% of the entire population that decides who rules the nation, which is a very big problem on itself, right? So that means the other 90%, which is referred to the silent majority, because they're actually majority, overwhelming majority. So to everybody who's listening to this program, it's really important that we participate in the process. And I can give reasons, even some people may argue that elections will be rigged and all that. It's very difficult to rig elections when people are on ground. That's why they wouldn't want you to register. That's why they wouldn't want you to come out and vote, because they want you to believe that this is. But I want to tell you that it's practically impossible to rig elections when everybody is on ground.
Okay.
The process.
Okay. Thank you so much. Continue from the silent majority.
Yes.
How do you justify the attitude of these young people? They actually have the PVC.
Yes.
But they said they have vowed not to come out and vote again.
A lot has happened.
And they will be classified among the silent majority.
Yes, a lot has happened in the nation that discourage a lot of people, right? I mean, I've had experience. I have run for an office. 2025, I ran for councillorship, and some of the things that happen can be very discouraging. I mean, I ran, spent a lot of money, did the campaigns. On the day of election, the people in charge did not come with result sheets. We ran for election without result sheets.
You mean the electoral officers?
Yes, the NSEC in Enugu, right? They came without result sheets, and after the election, they couldn't even publish our results. I had to go to court. The court had to mandate NSEC to show me my position. If you say I did not win the election, now publish the result. In fact, they did not produce a result. It was because I went to court that they now had to go and write a result and say that I did not get any vote. And
even you didn't vote for yourself.
That even me didn't vote for myself. And an election I knew that I won. I can bet you that I won that election. That was why I was the only councillorship candidate in Enugu that took them to court. I took PDP, I took NSEC to court. Of course, we know our legal system here in Nigeria. I couldn't take it to Supreme Court because, of course, it's local government affair. You can't go to Abuja. Such experiences discourage the youth, right, from coming out to vote, from vying for positions. But I think it's not enough. It's not enough for you to relax, because whether you come out to vote or not, you are still going to be affected. The taxation is going to affect you. We can see in Enugu the cost of living, house rent is unbearable, there is no water, promises are made. So instead of the youths just relaxing and saying, if I come out, there will be no change. I mean, if you come out, there will be change. I've seen them, the little effort I've made. I've seen how the system shook because I came out to contest. So I would encourage the youth. There are quite many reasons why you will say, I don't want to vote, I don't want to come out. But like Mr. Wilfred said, these people in power are afraid of crowd. They are afraid of the silent majority. If a lot of people come out to vote, then rigging cannot work. Imagine if there is a polling unit that about 2,000 persons are supposed to vote, and on the day of election, before INEC brings the paper and all the rest, the 2,000 persons are already on ground. Who can vote? Who can rig the election? They will not.
Yeah, but you mentioned that they didn't come with the election results.
No, that is because of what happened in Enugu. This is the election, and the kind of governor we have.
And I wouldn't believe that will happen again. because it's just the norm here that the who won the election has to be pronounced. I think the INEC has the prerequisite power to pronounce who won the election. That's why when you are saying you know you won, INEC didn't say. NSEC, sorry. Okay. This voter apathy. He has mentioned that it is really a problem.
It is,
And when the young people refuse to come out and vote, the consequences are innumerable. You are aware of that. Okay. Following or looking for accountability in the electoral processes. How can people who don't want to come out and vote follow up the vote and then say we need you to be accountable in all of the votes that we have cast?
Yeah, well, I think trying to answer your question, first, people need to understand that this is a process. You know, the only way you can get into power in a constitutional democracy such as we operate in Nigeria is to probably run for an election, be voted for, declare the winner, and you assume and you take up that position. So young people should understand that there is no other way with the kind of constitution that we run at this point for us to have leaders who may say are credible, you know, leaders who would think maybe who have the character, the competence, the commitment to take our nation forward, our country forward, our state forward, our constituencies forward, if we do not participate in that process. Right? So that is it, because there's no other way. We have to participate in that process. So everybody should understand that this is our process. You know, personally, I've been very active in the last 2 elections, and some of the outcomes of that election didn't go in a way that favored me. And I said to myself, why are you wasting your time, at some point risking your life, trying to better this system? I mean, is it not time for you to give up and move on with other things? But I said, if I give up, that would be that we have allowed the system to beat us. There is no good country anywhere. There is no bad country anywhere. When you have more number of persons who are maybe perceived bad, you say this place is a bad place. When you have more number of persons who are good, you say this is a good place. So Nigeria electoral system has continued to function the way it is. It has continued to be the way it is because a lot of people have continued not to be concerned. In 2023, there was a wave. We saw a wave that saw a new party, you know, per se, you know, sweeping a lot of positions, you know, and all that. Now, that was made possible because in the build-up to that election, there was a lot of awareness. I'm aware of some places in Enugu where people came out to vote, not just that they voted, they ensured that their votes were counted, they mobilized themselves, followed the votes from the polling units to the World Collation Center. Some even followed to the local government collation centers, ensuring that the right thing was done. That's how to do it. So we must enlighten people that it doesn't just stop in, you know, in fact, if you do not come, when you come to a polling unit, you demand that the polling officers will show you the result sheet, for instance, ensure that every material is in place. You have the numbers. When you have the numbers, nobody can come. In fact, one of the elections, I saw one of the guys, a very prominent person, I don't want to call names on air, you know, who lost that election. On that election day, he was roaming with his boys from polling unit to polling. When he comes to a place, people will bring out their phone and they'll put Facebook live, Instagram live, you know, videoing everything, showing, we know that everybody knows you're here, just in case you want to try anything funny. That's the approach. So we have a lot of work to do, but I believe as the election comes closer, we're going to continue to mobilize people because this is the only way, you know, to get the right people on board and better our lives as citizens.
I think the problem is more on the aspect of a lot of young people believing that they will not go out to vote because their votes will never count. Not because of the ugly experiences they had in the past.
I've come to a point where I no longer blame the leaders. The major issue we have in Nigeria is not of leadership, but of followers. The followers are not involved. They are not concerned.
Before the election or after the election?
Throughout the process, before the election, during the election, and also holding accountable those that eventually make it into those offices, whether it is those you wanted to be there or not. Because whether your candidate eventually wins or not, the person's moves is going to affect you, right? And I've continued to tell people that look at every nation that is working today, call it the first world nations, US, Singapore, and all the rest. The people there are involved they get so much involved in the policies in running the affairs of the state that the political leaders are afraid of them. Right? It's not that the politicians there are better than our own, but they were conditioned by the people because the people demanded that they must account to them. By getting involved in such places, you don't beg people to get PVCs. You don't beg them to come out and vote because they know that you are not voting to support somebody. When I ran for office, and even right now that I'm getting ready for 2027, I see a lot of Nigerians, they feel they are doing you a favor by getting PVC, right? You want to contest. For instance, a person like me that wants to run for House of Assembly, and we're encouraging people to maybe contest and register in a particular party, they feel they're doing you a favor. In fact, people want you to buy food for them or transport them to a place where they will get the PVC. And when you call for political meetings, when you want them to come and vote, people want to know, what will you give me? I mean, when I ran for councillorship, I would be in a place where I want to talk to people. Before I know it, people are already ordering drinks. I mean, I have not said I want to give you drinks, but because there's a nearby beer parlor to where we are, guys are already drinking on my head. Because I said, I want to represent you. I want a better policies to represent our people very well in the local government. The Nigerians believe in getting, they feel they are doing the politicians a favor. When in other climes, it is the other way around, because you take a lot of risk. You spend a lot, your time, your reputation, you put everything in the line to represent your people. In places like Singapore, people are pleaded with to come and contest, to vie for positions, right? But in Nigeria, the people are not concerned. On election day, in fact, many of the people that will even take that your drinks will not even show up. Not because something happened on the day of election or that they forgot, but had an issue. They never had intention of coming to vote, but they want to take 1 or 2 or 3 bottles.
Okay, but then coming to think of it, Wilfred, are there no ways this permanent voters card can be registered online? And then stop people from moving from place to place to register.
No, the point is that, for instance, now you can do what is called you can go, probably update your details online. You know, even it was sold in 2023. You know, you go online, register. What you just go to do at the office is to validate your biometrics. You know, but I think moving forward, you know, we're advocating that we have multiplicity of identification forms in Nigeria. You know, we have the NIN, we have the voters, whatever. We're also advocating that going forward, let's have a unified identity system. And the advocacy is also that, I don't know what the guidelines are really sure right now, but so long as you've registered, you know, because sometimes people could register and maybe before election you've lost your PVC, you don't know where it is, and that would disenfranchise you. So part of the advocacy is that once you are eligible and registered, because your details are on the server. We have the BVAS, for instance, that accredits voters. So it should be, once you turn up there, you put in your biometrics for accreditation, whether you're there with a card or not, so long as you are being registered to vote in that particular locality, you'll be validated. So that's what we should be talking about now, so that we don't have reasons of disenfranchising people, right? We just need to make the process very seamless. And of course, I know that in 2023, in the build-up to 2023, there were a lot of awareness. I saw people even mobilize themselves. We saw people at Moran Square, people that didn't have political interest whatsoever. They will support themselves, provide refreshments for people, provide snacks for people. Just come and vote. Come and get registered so that I can be able to vote. So we need more of that enthusiasm. We need more of that awareness, that grassroots mobilizing, so that we can be able to organize more people. Young people should understand that they are, 70%. We make about 70% of the entire population. So that means we have, in terms of numbers, we have what it takes. But because we are not seeing the potentials, we don't know our power, the powers that we have in numbers. That's why we are still slipping back. And just like Mr. Sampson said, when you have wrong leaders in place, it has a way about, it doesn't matter whether you voted Fuel is about 1,350, 1,004. Whether you voted or you didn't vote, you're going to face the consequences of that. You understand? You know how much it costs. Maybe if you go to work with public transport, if you go to school with public transport, some students can't even afford. Those days when you're hungry, you just go get Indomie. Things like this are now luxury. Even Gary.
Egg.
Egg. No, you don't talk about that one. So
okay.
It has a way of affecting everybody. Yeah. You understand?
Okay, thank you so much. Looking at the scope of this program, it is good we are encouraging the young people to go get their PVCs. Exactly. And then some of them that have the PVC already, they should come out and do what? And vote. And forget the past experience. Yes. We're not only here to encourage them to avoid voter apathy and get your PVC and vote. We're also here to encourage them to be voted also. Mm-hmm. To vote and be voted.
Yeah.
But Samson, it is good you have run for an office, and you mentioned that you are going to run again. Maybe you have a good or a level playground. That is why maybe it's possible for you. Don't you think that young people have some barriers in picking the interest form to start with?
Of course. See, politics in Nigeria is like a system that those in power, those that has sworn not to make this nation work, has made in such a way that good people will find it very, very difficult to enter. Let me give you an instance. When I ran for councillorship, of course, you have to expression of interest form, get the form and all the rest. Then when we went for screening at the local government, because the state government, Enugu state government, of course, I think they're often afraid of opposition. They don't want good guys like us to come and get involved. Then we went for screening. After everything, we started hearing about tax clearance. And of course, this is something that shouldn't be so much. And it was pegged at 250,000. Right? 250,000. And we just had a window, just few hours or a few days before if you don't do that, you wouldn't be able to move ahead. A lot of young guys that couldn't meet up with the payment, wouldn't scale through going forward to contest. There are a lot of bottlenecks, but it should not be enough to discourage you. We are youths, and this nation, these old men that are causing this, in the next 20, 30 years, they are not here, right? This is our place. This is our nation. Not all of us will run our way to UK, US, right? We need to get involved. And we can't wait to be given permission. There will never be a time where the oppressor will get tired of oppressing you and say, okay, I've repented. In fact, what is happening in Nigeria is that these people bulldoze their way and become governors. After governorship, they go to Abuja for Senate and stay there all throughout. And while in Abuja, they get these forms. They make a way for their children and grandchildren and girlfriends and bring them into House of Assembly. From House of Assembly, such person becomes governor, and that the child from governor enters Abuja, and the system continues. When the children of the common man keeps looking and salivating and complaining and agitating, the best way is we must find a way. Express that interest. I was shocked when I made up my mind to run. I started getting endorsements within and outside Nigeria. There are a lot of people that want good governance, but they are afraid. So when they see one youth that really want to give it a shot, many of them will rally around you. Some people may not come out openly to support you, but at the background they'll be giving you a lot of support. So I want to encourage people that you are angry with what is happening. Not every one of us can run away, travel to UK. If we are still here, come out. Don't be afraid. Look at what happened in the last election. A lot of person that came out under the Obi wave, scared through. Of course, some of them still decamped, but not everybody decamped. So the same thing could happen again. Come out, show interest. Today I'm a stakeholder in Commonwealth politics. My father is not a politician. I did not have that background, but I came out and started talking. I started going to media houses. I formed a parallel political structure. In my place, when I lost, of course, I won that election, but you know what happened. Immediately I lost. I started preparing for 2027. So I formed a parallel political structure, started meeting with them. Everything is not money. There are people that have like minds, but they are looking for a leader that will that will organize the movement. So when I started today, they are calling us for meetings. They need to see us, right? Because see, rigging is not easy. Ask these politicians, if it was not easy, we saw governors that in the last election, governors that did 8 years that wanted to go for Senate. People collected their money and still did not vote for them. They lost out to unknown faces. In the coming 2027 election, it will be very difficult to rig, and even these people know about it. So let the youth come out. Put your face there, and the youth will say, Doyiru there. Doyiru there, let it be that it did not work, because it may work.
Okay, Wilfred, I think it is good we narrow this down to practical terms.
Yeah. The
young people we are talking about, I think it was possible for Samson because it was Samson.
Yeah.
I know this, that the purchase of the interest form is relatively difficult to a lot of youths.
Yeah.
People are hungry. Yeah. That is why you can use OPA, 500 naira OPA,
yeah,
and change the mind of somebody you have convinced to vote for you on the election day. A bottle of Coke, adding to it to ask you, do you have another place I want to vote?
And the person have taken
can I vote 2 times
from you before?
or more than that. So people are hungry. People are hungry. It was possible for you, but I don't know the number of young people here that it's going to be possible to pick the form. What happened to the young, not young to run bill that was passed in the National Assembly before now?
It's still there. You know, the point really is, I personally have come to have some kind of re-evaluation of the whole system. And I've come to discover that age is not necessarily the problem, right? We've seen a lot of young people, for instance, a lot of young people have been members of the House of Assembly. What change have they necessarily brought to the system? It's non-existent. You know, what have they done differently per se that you say others have not done? You know, what are they bringing? So we really need to begin to look beyond just age, you know, because I really think, okay, go to schools, for instance, look at student politics. How do they play politics, even the SUG? So you see that we're just trying to we're copying these guys, these elites, as much as we can.
Yeah.
You know, when you belong to student associations, for instance, and you're the financial secretary, you've been entrusted as little as 50,000. Oh yeah, the day you're supposed to give account, you suddenly fall sick. You won't come, you know, and that's the same person that will graduate from SUG, for instance, and somehow get, you know, the opportunity or maybe nominated to go to the House of Assembly. So he continues that pattern. Of course, he has learned from SUG. Yeah. You know, he makes it better. Yeah. He masters the skill better. He learns how to pad budgets and all that. He learns how to siphon constituency funds and all that. So we really need to look beyond that and begin to talk to ourselves about real governance, real values, because that's what will really change the system. So there are a lot of barriers, just like you pointed. Cost of nomination forms are expensive. But then, if we're able to identify people who have potentials, you could belong to a system or a society wherein they're looking for somebody who is going to be in charge of handling money. Everybody's pointing to one person.
Yeah. You
know, give it to this person. Can we identify people like that who are tested and trusted? You know, I think it was in Uganda somewhere where somebody a young person ran, you know, against an incumbent with several years of experience. People rallied around him, people crowdfunded his campaign, and eventually he won. So when we identify people like that, sometimes people post on social media, people raise funds on social media. You see the manner and speed when we may not have, so when we see people, individuals that we can trust, we can rally around them, you know, support them. If we have maybe 3,000, 4,000 persons who are willing to donate about maybe 1,000 to 10,000, that will make a lot of difference in funding this campaign. Then we would know that it's really not it's not a give and take kind of system. You know, wherein because I sponsor the election, when you go to get there, you must do this for me in return. When we crowdfund people to positions, we don't necessarily expect any personal, you know, benefit from them. What we're demanding is for the collective good of the people.
Yeah.
That's a model that will work better than just, you know. So let's begin to look beyond that. Let's begin to build our value system, not just as people who want to run elections, but as citizens as well. You pointed out that people give you OPA. on election day and you change their mind. I saw videos on social media of one of the parties that just conducted their
before you tell us more about the video on social media, let us observe just a short break.
Sorry.
We are coming back. When we come back, then you continue from where you stop. Avia, thank you so much for being there. It has been a wonderful outing discussing the power of the PVC part 2. Thank you so much. We shall be right back. Please don't go away.
Morning headlines before you step out. Midday updates while you walk. Evening analysis when the day winds down. Wherever life takes you, Aneke TV keeps you informed, connected, and ahead. Aneke TV. Move with the
Back from the short break is still the program Youth Focus on Aneke TV. Our topic for today is the power of PVC, part 2. Thank you so much for being there. I want to tell you and I assure you that we are here because you are there. And I've had a wonderful set of people on the studio today who are administrators. I have by my left Wilfred Okeke, who is youth administrator, and I have Samson Oko, who is the admin. Lead Network Africa. Yeah. Thank you so much. Let's continue. Before the short break, Wilfred, you were talking about a post you saw on social media. Yes, please take it up from there.
I saw videos of one party that conducted primaries recently, and you see people who they brought out to stand in lines to be counted. You look at these people, you see that these are obviously people who are impoverished, people who are poor. Yeah. Now, go and study the story behind it. Probably they've given them 3,000, 2,000 to come out and stand on the line to be counted. And after that, they go back to Abuja. They spend your money, you go back to your house, you're hungry, you don't have any kind of social cover, you don't have access to basic amenities, you don't have access to healthcare, access to water, and they come back. Most of them, their children live abroad. They come back after 4 years, they tell you, oh, this person is in town, you mobilize yourselves, you take your drums, you take everything, they give you money, they give you 100,000, you guys are like 500 that went there, you divide 100,000, maybe some of you will get 500, 300 naira. Our people should rise above that. Nigerians deserve better. If we really understand what governance, why this has continued like this is that we don't understand what governance is all about. I tell people that it takes the led and the leaders to be able to guarantee good governance. Mm-hmm. So long as the people who are led continue to look away from the reality, from the reality, we must begin to ask questions. We must begin to interrogate. God has not, any politician that will call me to come and raise placard for the person for what will 5,000 do for me? Well, even if I don't have food, but can you call your children to do the same? Your children are studying in Ivy League colleges, universities in in UK, in US, and I'm there to carry placards for you. Nigerians must have a rethink, especially going into this election. Anybody that gives you money induces you to vote for him or her. That's the main reason why you should vote against the person. Yeah. Please collect the money because it is part of it's your commonwealth. Yeah. They've stolen it, they've siphoned it. Collect it without pleasure with a thank you and vote your conscience.
Is it every Nigerian politician that steals money?
Of course not.
All.
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. I'm a politician in my own capacity. Yes. In fact, prior to that, I've been in political meetings. Right, since 2024 I've been in the game. We have people like PT2, who was a governor here in the southeast. He was governor for 8 years, and we saw what he did. Right, within a few years, Anambra became the number one in WAEC exams. Right, he was the leader that after his tenure, he had to invite EFCC, I think EFCC, to come and audit him. He left a lot of money. So people, my little exposure in politics have told me that there are quite a lot of children of God in politics. I was surprised when I've had meetings with some of them, and I see that there are some people that give them 50,000, they will deliver a 50,000 naira project without compromise. We still have them. Just that the number is so small that in a system like an ocean, they are just like a teaspoon. That is why more and more people need to get involved so that the voice of such people can reach out to more people. So when we say that Nigerian politicians are corrupt, it's not very correct. They are very decent people. In fact, I tell people, when all the politicians in Nigeria becomes 100% corrupt, Nigeria won't last for up to 3 months. Give it 3 months, the system will collapse. What is still holding this nation is that there are still certain people that have integrity, that if you give them funds, they will deliver, that are not corrupt, that refuse to be compromised. Some of them are in power, some of them are vying to enter into power. If everybody becomes corrupt, Nigeria won't survive for 3 months.
And again, I also think our disposition as citizens has also been an enabler to corruption.
Yeah.
For instance, you're a politician.
Yes.
You come to a church or to a church for a program or a service or a bazaar or whatever. It's expected that there is a threshold of money you're supposed to donate to that church. If you do not, they'll say this one is a stingy person.
Yeah.
Without knowing that, where would this, what is the salary of a House of Assembly member, for instance? What is the salary of a governor, for instance? So when people place that huge burden on you, and that's why most politicians, take corrupt tendencies, because there's a lot of expectation. Because your brother is in the House of Assembly, you expect that he will do this. The community expects that he will do this, do that, and places a lot of pressure on some of them who have integrity to begin to consider compromise. So that's what I'm saying, that we need to really redefine, make people understand what we've seen in the US, where we've seen senators who sleep in their offices because they do not have money to afford accommodation in Washington, D.C. Can that be said in Nigeria? Are you get what I'm saying? Yeah. So we need to, expectation is high. A politician has come, you expect what kind of car is he driving? There's a whole lot of burden that is placed on these people. And that's why a lot of people who have the character, when they get into these positions, their character is put in check. Okay, you've been in this office, so what have you done for us? Yeah. What have you done for us? There's a whole lot, without knowing that this is all about service. And again, we should be aware of people who are career politicians. They do not have any life outside politics. So when they get into offices of privilege, they want to abuse that privilege. They want to amass wealth because they know they don't have any life outside that system. And that's why you see them, they keep running. Some of them, they run for governor. Some of them want to go back as a House of Rep member. You're wondering, did they forget anything in Abuja that they want to go and pick up and all that? So we need to be aware of people like that. Let's look at people who have made a name for themselves, even if it's in teaching. Somebody who has made a name in teaching is renowned in teaching students, molding characters there. We say, okay, we like this one. Can we support this person? Not people who don't have any verifiable means of livelihood. We continue to encourage them. You ask them what they do for a living, they will tell you that they are politicians. That is.
Okay, thank you so much, Samson.
Yeah.
My reference point is the fact that you have run before.
Yes.
And you still have the intention to run again.
I've considered.
Okay. Okay. I want you to mention other factors that will qualify a young person to run. We have mentioned the purchase of the interest form.
Yes.
What are other factors that qualified you to run for?
Beyond the basic things like he mentioned, integrity, right? Beyond, before you even vie, what have you been doing for your people? In your area of calling, like he said, if I'm a teacher, I'm a school proprietor, right? These are the things I've been doing. So the people must check those things. Then you should be a citizen, be up to 18, right? You pay your tax. Be a member of a political party. This thing isn't complex.
Pay your tax where you're working or you're not working, where you're unemployed.
That is what. See, because of the kind of system we run in Nigeria, we will be fooling ourselves if we just say anybody can wake up and contest. Money is involved. Do you understand? Because of the way political parties in Nigeria are being run. Abroad, members pay dues, right? I'm a member of the NDC, right? Abroad, we expect that monthly. Members pay monthly dues. But here in Nigeria, members expect to get money from the party, right? When a representative from the party is coming, they expect to get money. Because of that, all the political parties wait for a 4-year cycle when it is time for politics. People will now come and buy nomination form. That is why they make it so hard. In the US, if you want to run for governorship, the form is about 1 to 2% of your annual salary, right? That means if you are supposed to make 100,000 at the end of a year, your annual salary, then you just pay 1,000 or 2,000 to get your form, and you even pay to the states, not to the political party, right? And there's nothing like expression of interest form. But here, you have interest to represent your people. You have to pay 1 million. For my party is 1 million. You have to pay 1 million to express your interest before you now get the form 1.5 million for my own party, and my party is among the lowest, if not the cheapest. So we'll be fooling ourselves if we say anybody needs to just wake up. If you want to do politics, you need to build yourself to an extent. That doesn't mean you have to be a billionaire. That doesn't mean you must have all the wealth, but you must be able to feed yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm taking a reference point from him that before you become a politician, even as a young person, that you need to build yourself to an extent.
Yeah.
Somebody that is unemployed, somebody that is a youth that is still dependent on the parents, living with the parents, being fed by the parents. How do you build yourself to an extent to be able to join politics?
You see, like I said, when we see politics as...
A lot of them are graduates.
Yes, a call to service. You know, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You mustn't be in the House of Assembly to serve Kano West or to serve Enugu South. There are a lot of things that you can do. That's building. For instance, there was a time in my life that I take my leave. I go to a school. I teach pro bono at no cost. That's a way of trying to help improve education in that locality. I'm not in the House of Assembly. You know, there's something that we do also, mobilize resources, give solar systems to schools. I'm not a politician to do that. So you must not necessarily be in House of Assembly to serve. You can serve in your street. You can mobilize your friends, you come out for cleanup in the street. That's service. And that's what politics should be all about.
Yes, yeah.
So when we begin to see politics as a call to service, not something that you do as an occupation. You go there to, you become a politician, you earn salary, you earn money. No, it's something that you do to serve people. So young people should have that mentality and that mindset. So we need to begin to redefine community organizing. Then if we think we've built ourselves to an extent, like I said, you have to be tested and trusted. If you've not been able to manage, you've not managed your class properly as a class rep, you've not managed your student body as, properly, you want to now go to the House of Assembly, no, you don't have that experience. So I think the burden first lies in first building yourself. If you don't have anything doing, you don't have a job, you can go acquire a skill, start somewhere.
Yeah.
First build yourself, because like you said, whether you like it or not, money is involved in politics. Because if you're hungry, and you go into the system and you're offered something, you check your prospects. Can I get this in the next 20 years of my life or 30 years of my life? You take it and compromise. That's why it's important to build yourself. If you build yourself, when you build us, you must not be a millionaire, you must not be a billionaire. So long as you're able to feed yourself, you're able to take care of your basic needs, I'm not sure anybody can be able to tempt me to vote him or vote against my conscience or do something that I know that goes against my conscience. Because I know even if I don't do it, the consequence, yes, you hold your money, but I'll still be living fine, I'll still be feeding, I'll still be taking care of my basic needs. So we need to understand that.
I think the starting point is getting your permanent voter's card.
Yes.
You don't do that with money.
No, it's free.
You don't, it's free.
Yes.
Are there things that government are expected to do to facilitate that?
They are already doing some of it. We hear some adverts online and even in the traditional media, like in most radio platforms, in television stations and all the rest. The government is already doing that. Then we also need to encourage the government to bring it closer to the people, right? I mean, the markets, the campuses like Esu, Taban, and Eshu. These are the work with the councillors, the PGs of the communities, the town criers. Let the people even know that things like this is going on, right? But what we see most often is that it is as though, because of the wave that is coming, because of what we in NDC we are doing, it's as if there is this calculated move to ensure that not many people come out to vote, right? I must tell you that this voter apathy is partly sponsored by the politicians, right? I mean, we know these things because they know that the more the number of people that come out to vote, the more difficult it will be for them to rig the election. So subtly and sometimes openly, people are discouraged from getting the PVC. In fact, we see some influencers that will come and say, don't even vote, that your vote don't count. But we know that some people are sponsored. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So I think people should demand, go get your PVC, get it ready. If you have gotten your own, encourage your wife, encourage your parents, your siblings, everybody go get your PVC. If you are abroad, call on those that are here. Get your PVC. If you are an employer, encourage your staff. Everybody show me your PVC. Of course, you don't force them, but keep encouraging them. Once these things are done, the system will begin to work.
Thank you so much. Wilfred, are there roles you think the community leaders will have to play to make sure that this voter registration is done? Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody has a role to play. You know, community leaders as well. The media, just like we're doing here, raising awareness. If you're you're watching us and you don't have a PVC, you don't have your voter's card, you can go to, I think, cvr.inecnigeria.org. It's a very easy portal. You can just do from there you can also locate registration centers closest to you, right? So that's a step that we need to take. So everybody has to play his or her part in encouraging people to get this, because that's the passport to a better Nigeria. You know, we'll just have to continue doing it, even in the churches. The reverend fathers, the priests, the pastors, we need to talk about it. Just like you said, you know, you're an employer of labor, you talk to your employees, go get it. In the families, once you're 18, you know, and some people may have, you know, maybe you were in Kano before, you were in Lagos, you need to go and update your records. Yeah. So you check where are you going to be in the 2027 elections, you know, January period. If you're going to be in Enugu, go transfer your records to Enugu, to somewhere that is close to you. Or maybe you've left Nsukka, you're now in Enugu town, or you've left Enugu and you're now in Nsukka. You have to make those updates so that you are not disenfranchised from voting. You don't disenfranchise yourself. And we must bear in mind that if Nigeria must change, it has to start with us. And it has to start with us by we voting, you know, the right candidate. So we have to bear that in mind and know that this is the only passport that we have to a better Nigeria.
Okay, when after the electioneering processes, and the election is won, how is the young people expected to be part of the governance?
See, governance and being part of what is going on doesn't just end with voting and campaigning. We need to keep looking at those people that we voted in. You need to keep following them up. Look at most other nations, things do not just work. Even when you vote in a good person, the person will relax if they are not being followed up. Look at them. There were promises they made. There was a manifesto they presented to you that made you to vote the person.
Just make it brief, because
the people must keep getting involved. Keep following them up. Keep demanding those things that they presented in their manifesto. And if they do not do those things, remind them that after 4 years they are coming back to you and they will not get back to that place.
Thank you so much. Wilfred, what's your parting words? Well, we are rounding off.
I would encourage everybody listening to this program. We have a big tax ahead of us in 2027, and we must all, you know, galvanize ourselves, mobilize ourselves to make that tax easy. We're battling for the soul of this country. We're battling for the soul of the state. So all of us must be part of it. We must get our PVC, and not just getting our PVCs. We must ensure that we vote, and we must ensure that our vote counts.
I think the take home is that we have a big task coming 2027, and that big task is to do everything in order to get it right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Wilfred. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much, Samson Ogo, for coming. Avia, thank you so for being there. We have discussed on the power of the PVC, and that is the part 2 of it. And I hope you took everything we've said here very seriously. My name is Chukwemeka Obasi. We're going to see again.
In every generation, there exists a defining force. A force shaped by curiosity, driven by ambition, fueled by possibility. Where ideas evolve into innovation, skills transform into enterprise, and vision becomes impact. Because empowerment is more than progress. It is transformation. The voices shaping tomorrow. The idea redefining possibilities. The generation building the future.